We are live. All right. Sweet. I'm gonna give it a minute, see if anybody even hops on here. Let's see. It's probably like the third time I've decided to do this. I figured doing it on YouTube probably. Oh, that's not good. Would be better to do it on here than Facebook, so I chose this instead. So I'm gonna bob this bed to this rc4wd drive Trailfinder 2 Mojave body, and I'm going to kind of give a basic rundown. I'm not going to cut this bed, but I will show you how I do it with this bed, and then show you the end result with the bed that I had just cut a couple hours ago. So it's very simple. You can get, doesn't matter what color tape you got, blue, green, some type of painter tape. I use it a lot. It just comes in handy, different things, holding stuff together that you don't want to just sit and hold. Sometimes clamps don't quite work. The tape, it does wonders. And it's about the thickness, I don't know how thick that is. I had my little measuring tool right here. Inch and a half. So it's an inch and a half, and it works out perfect. The end result of what you cut out will look something like this. Normally I don't do it to a body that's already been painted. Normally it's a fresh body, hasn't been touched. You paint over all the seams and everything and you never notice it. So this is a little different, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've been running the other body that I have here for a while now, and I figured might as well change it up. So, but basically, what I'll do is there is, stay there. These marker lights here are a good spot where I like to tape. I like to start my tape right there. So I will put my green tape just beyond that little marker light hole. So that's kind of like a nice line up point to where you want your cut line. It works for me, and like I said, it's pretty quick. So I'll just take, paint a little bit over the edge, tuck it over, and then I just kind of set it on the inside of the bed there. Then I take my little, you know, what is it? It only goes up to 6 inches. It's metal. It's mainly what I use for all my measurements are all rough. They're just kind of guesses. I use this. So I just kind of measure, get a rough, so that's 14, and I'm going right to the edge of the body line. I'm not worried about the lights, because there's the lights in here. So I'm worried about this little line here. I'm kind of following this all the way up, and I'm just kind of measuring. So as I go through, I like to keep it right at like 14 all the way to the body. So then when I go to the other side, and by 14 I mean it's just tiny. It's just a tiny. You can go a little bit more, you can go a little less. I mean, it's tiny. It's not very much. And this is just so handy. You're just quick. You just want to match both sides. So I'll just pull it over, keep it straight. I don't want it to curl or look funny. quick measurement. All I'm doing is measuring from the inside of the body to where the tape lines. 10. Or, yep, 10. Yeah, we're right at 10. 16. 10. 10 all the way. Perfect. Come right down. Go right next to the other marker light hole. Just cover it barely. Come through, make your measurement. See, that one's a little bit bigger. Yep. So just pull it back again. Grab the wrong side, maybe that's why. Now it's way closer to where I want it. Keep it coming straight down. That looks a little better. And then you can kind of match up the sides on how much of your marker light you covered, because you can see through, and we're about the same. And then literally all I do is I keep right on going, and then I match the tape up right on the other side. Take my blade, keep some tension on the tape, gotta just barely pull it away. Now you have nice straight lines that you can follow. Tape's a little crooked here, but you keep it straight. That's probably not perfect. It's a little loose. But like I said, I'm not really cutting this body, so you can see here when you go to cut it, you just basically follow the edge of the tape. No, some people you can mark it and follow it. I like to use the tape because it kind of keeps you in a guide. So that it works pretty good for me. Sometimes the blade can easily, kind of walk on you, and then it's hard getting back on track. So, but there are a few different, where are they with that? Oh yeah, there's that one. There's a few different methods that you can use to cut them. I like to use the traditional razor saw is what I've been using for the longest time. I have a deeper blade that works better for the bodies, but I was doing something else, so this was the one I had on there. Here's the maybe I broke that one. I think I broke it. Yeah, probably. But so there's that razor saw, but then I did find a new one at the store the other day, and it come with a whole bunch of different blades. Came with a big heavy duty one, one's not so deep. Let's see, there's another one, and then a really fine tip one. I had to scoop that up. I thought that was really cool. Come on the nice wooden handle. It looks like it would work pretty good. Beefy blade. This blade here works pretty good. It's a little husky blade. This cuts metal and everything. I cut it 1/8 rod, 3/16. It cuts right through it. So to cut a body, it cuts it pretty good. You can get these for like $8 at Home Depot, Menards. A pack of blades is like $7, and I've had it for like a year, and I haven't changed the blade on it, and it just cuts through like butter. So that works good too. You get a little bit deeper of a cut with that. But then I did just pick up this bandsaw, and what used to take, could take a half hour depending on what blade you were using or how slow you were going. Sometimes things happen, it just the blade walks, doesn't get perfect. You try to take your time. With the bandsaw, I taped it off, and I just followed the tape, and I did both cuts in like not even a minute. It couldn't have been any easier. So basically you end up with this taped piece. So you cut, like I said, you cut on the outside of the tape, and you're left over with this. So now this is the bed that I taped. Now you have this and your end, and now you're gonna just put it back together. I used to have a long stripe that went down. The nice thing is about the tape is it catches all your shavings when you're cutting it. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. So it kind of cleans it up too. But see, it goes upside down there. But the decals that were on it, so now instead of it having a long silver and gold wing, now it's kind of a stubby. It's just kind of funny because its name is Gold Wing, but so you're left with that. Then it's a little rough when you get it. It's not perfect. Sometimes you get lucky and it's really close, sometimes it's not. I got pretty close this time, but you sand it a little bit, round, fitment. You'll never know. So once I have it cleaned up, I'll take some either 40 or 60. I think I'm gonna use some 60 this time. If I can find it. I know I got some. I think this is 80. Oh, here we go, perfect. I think this is 80, so this is some thick stuff. I like to use, I have a big scrap bin down here, and I was gonna use this, but the 40 doesn't seem, I don't know. I don't always use this, sometimes I do things a little different, but this time I'm gonna use a little bit thicker stuff. And then I'm going to actually put some material on the inside of this, or the inside of this one, either one, it'll be in. You can glue some other pieces down to help make it more sturdy. It's pretty dirty, I should have cleaned it. Not gonna get a really good I don't really have anything to wipe it with. Just have to wipe it with my finger, I guess. Anyway, a little bit of dirt. Might not get the greatest attachment, but it'll work. It'll hold. Hasn't failed me yet, so normally what I'll do, flip it upside down, see how bad of shape I'm in. It's a couple rough spots. Might not worry about it and just put it together. Do a little bit here. here I'm not getting. Usually I do it till it gets flat where all it's touching everywhere. It's not really touching in the middle. Just trying to even everything out on the sides here. Usually there's, keep like a block around. You can use this. It's a hand sander from, it's upside down, or no, I'm just reading it backwards. Thought it was upside down. It works good too. I have blocks of wood, different various sizes and stuff that I'll use. But all I'm gonna do is clean up the end of it. Should pretty much it just goes right together. So flip it over. Since it's not really gonna get seen, not too worried about what this is gonna look like. Rough cut. Sometimes you can use blade, sometimes I use the knife and just score it, snap it. With the thicker stuff sometimes, and I don't really care about it, I'll just cut it. But now I'm gonna do it the long way. Probably gonna cut it down a little. Now I have my insert piece for the back. So when that goes in, it'll lay down, sit right nice and that on top of that on this little lip here. So that'll work out perfect. So I'll get things lined up. I got these clamps that I use when I'm gluing things together. I'll take a couple of them. And I'll just clamp the top of the bed together, both sides. That way it's somewhat attached. I usually have a dozen of them laying around, but for some reason I don't have any. I'll put it right here. So I got one on top, I'll put one on the bottom. One on the bottom over here. And then I can kind of start lining stuff up. Sliding things together. Sometimes something will have to be trimmed sometimes. I have one. That one doesn't have these little rubber boots on the front of them. Helps grab. And then I'm just kind of checking, making sure all the lines are coming together good. Up on the top. Get some tape, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of leave this side not glue. I'm not going to glue this side down yet, or the bottom piece. I'm going to work on, now that I know how I want this lined up, even though I know I need to trim off a little piece here, I'm not worried about that. All this up here looks pretty good, so I'm going to actually add in a piece of flat styrene behind this that's going to overlap on the inside. Then I'll make a same piece for this side. And then it's going to kind of, it'll slide together almost like a puzzle piece. It just, you know, it kind of keeps it all centered. Instead of just trying to glue it and add behind it, you're just kind of shooting it in the dark. You're just globbing glue like, you know, on the back side. You never really get great glue, and I've had them kind of fall apart and crack, kind of get loose, and just having to keep filling them in once in a while, but it just works out better that way. So I know it's all going to line up pretty good. Tape, clean out the inside. It's got some shoe glue in there. I'm not going to get that off there. What I will use, that 40 thickness, I'll use it here. And I'll just kind of measure with the styrene. I'll kind of just put it in there how high I want it to go. And cut. You want to cut up a little bit away from the bottom. You don't want it to show. You don't want it too wide. But you want it to connect a decent amount. So a good 1/4 inch. I just make a rough drawing. Yeah, nothing special. Like I said, a lot of the times when I do something that's not being seen, I'll just cut it real quick. Kind of line it up how I want it. Shape it a little bit. You just kind of work it. It'll bend. Just kind of soften it up. Once I know where I want it, I'm going to take some of my glue, which is raw ABS or styrene. Can't really tell. And I'm going to put it down. I'll put it down in here. I'm going to put some on the back side and put it on there. Now I kind of want the glue to kind of eat into it, so I'll add some to that. And it kind of starts to eat the plastic and get a good bond, especially when you're doing the thick stuff. And here I'm just kind of dabbing on the inside, getting good coverage of where this flat piece is going to sit. And then I'll take Stick it in there. It's gonna be nice and sticky. It's gonna stay there for you. It ain't gonna fall out. So. Take your clamp, crimp it in there. Now, this piece here is loose on the bottom. I don't want that. So I'm going to put a piece of tape there, and I'm going to hold that together. And then I'm going to glue that together. Because I want that to be sturdy as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take some of my glue and I'm going to kind of glob it in there, and it's going to eat away and it's going to fill in all my gaps. It's not going to interfere with any of my light buckets. Sandable, but here I'm not worried about sanding. It's just I want it to fill in really good, and it's gonna work out good. So now I'm just gonna copy it on the other side. Again, I'm just gonna kind of estimate where I want it. Doesn't have to be exact. These are just Lexan scissors. I've had these for 2 years. They've come in handy so many times. Should probably get a new pair. Then again, here I am. You just bend it. Once you get it somewhat pliable, you can stick it in there. Pretty good there. Sometimes you have to move it around a little bit more. Sometimes you don't. So again, I'm just coating the back side, getting the glue on there, melting away. Let's prop this up a little bit. Well, flipping it over. So here again, I'm gonna just kind of get it globbed down in here. Glue that together on that side as well. I gotta make sure I cover the side pretty good. Spread it around. Then again, clamp it. I'm going to add a piece of tape to this side as well. I have a piece of tape here. So all I'm doing is making sure it doesn't separate there. I want a good bond. Stuff some more glue on there. Get the glue off. Kind of knock down the glue, I want to, where's my sandpaper? Scuff up the bottom a little bit here. There's a lot of paint on the bottom. This piece that you cut off earlier, or I cut off earlier, I should say. Did I have to do it the other way? I thought I did it, maybe I did it the other way. Can't put that on there this time. Since last time I didn't do the inner structure on my truck, which is these pieces, I call them like the locks because it holds it in place pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue it to this piece, and then I'll just fit it to here. I may have to trim off something that might hang off in the fender wells, but that's no big deal. This isn't supposed to be anything fancy anyway. This is just kind of like a quick one here. No, I just need to figure out. Trying to figure out how I want to hold that into place. I'll probably just use some tape because it's resting up against my clamps here. And I don't have a clamp long enough to go down there and hold that. I don't think my magnets. Yeah, they won't cooperate. So I'll use a piece of tape. And I'm just going to kind of tape it so it wants to stay somewhat standing up or up against the back side, or the bottom side here, I should say, not the back side. It kind of stays locked in place pretty good there. Nothing fancy, it's not a super hold by any means, but for what I'm trying to accomplish at the moment. It'll work just fine because I can open it, I can push on it, I can get the glue in there pretty good, which is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to kind of lean it up against the other piece of the bed here is basically what I'm doing. So in between the white styrene and the bed bottom, I'm going to get my glue in between there. So I'm just going to kind of dab it along the way here, and I usually have a little pick. Well, it was a screwdriver at one time. I don't know what I did with it, but this will work just fine. This is MEC, what the hell do they call that? The methyl ethyl ketone. It's MEC and raw ABS. It's probably Got a hatch of ABS pellets in the bottom of it, and then I fill it up with mech for 48 hours, 72 hours. Shake occasionally, probably every other day. Probably I let it set for 24 hours, and then I shook it really good for a good 15-20 minutes, and then I let it sit again for another 24 to 48 hours, and then it was pretty good to go. I made different thicknesses and all that. I made, you know, gooey and putty. And this consistency here has always worked for me. So but I use the pick to push the glue down in there. But this has a brush on it, and you just kind of start filling it in there. You want a decent amount. Try to get more on the styrene than you are on the actual bed. You don't want a bunch of styrene on the top side. Or not styrene, you don't want a bunch of glue on the top side of the bed. Then it's kind of a mess to clean up. You don't want it to be visible. This stuff does smell really bad. So if you do make it, you know, I hope you do some sort of ventilation. Usually I have a fan going that sucks fresh air in. It is in the winter time right now, so I don't have it sucking any fresh air in because it would be extremely cold. I should wear a respirator or something. Then I just kind of want it to get around in there as best you can. Press it pretty good. It's gonna stay. It ain't going anywhere. I'll let that sit for a couple minutes. I want to keep putting some pressure on it throughout. Usually when you, like I said, when you let it sit just for a second, you know, 15-20 seconds, it's sitting in there and it's just kind of melting away at both the plastics where it's sitting. This stuff smells bad. And that way when you go to squish it, it's not super fresh or runny. I usually make it a pretty good consistency to where it's pretty sticky once you apply it. So it works really well. And then it just kind of refill my beer here. Unofficial sponsor, Hogarden. One of my favorite beers. My one and only shop beer. So but now that the sides have been clamped down for a couple minutes, you can go ahead and take the clamps off. You can leave the tape or peel back a little bit of it. Now, if you have any glue that's kind of squeezed through, you want to get it out before it gets too hard, then it becomes a pain. So since it's still gooey, you can take a razor blade and just literally scrape it right on out. I mean, because if you forget about that, and then that becomes real pain when you go to put that back together. Because then it's hard, and then you gotta sand it out of there. Sometimes you can press it in there with your fingernail. I usually just scrape it with a razor blade. Comes right off. Now that you got that free of clips, it's gonna resemble something like this. Now you don't need that drastic of a piece hanging off there. I'll do it that way and then I'll trim it around this part here, if it sticks over, I just want to make sure that I have a good solid coverage of where this is going to sit. So now that I have this, is the bed. Here's the rear section. It's got those pieces sticking out. It's got the bottom out. You can literally take it, and when you go to put it together, it's just locked in place now. It's little gap there. That's no big deal. There's just no pressure pushing on it. Now it's gone. The side is pretty good. There's no pressure on it. It's still locked into place. You have a little bit of styrene showing down here at the bottom. No big deal. You can fill it in with your glue, touch it up with some black. It might actually melt the black paint in the bottom of the bed if it's already painted, and then it kind of absorbs it, excuse me, and you never even know. But you're not done yet, of course. So now that I know that it fits correct, now that I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take it back apart. So I'm gonna set that down, flip this. I'm gonna have me a sip of my beer. Now I'm really just going to take and put a generous amount of my glue down on here, because I want to use a decent amount. It's kind of dirty, and I'm doing a large area, and there's some grooved sections in the bed, obviously. So I want to make sure I get those grooves filled in, as well as glue on the higher sections. I want the glue to get a good bond everywhere. I don't want it to just be on the top, because then you have weak points, which are all the little veins. You don't want that. Since it doesn't take a whole lot of glue. I mean, one bottle of this glue can last you a long time, depending on how much work you do, how much building you do. Sometimes you can use a lot of it. It can come in handy. So it's very easy to make, or you can buy it if you can find the ABS material, or use spare junk styrene pile. I am actually going to be making a bunch of it, and then selling like little kits and helping people out with builds. I feel like this, with the ABS and the inside of it melted down, it helps with doing body work and stuff like that. You get better, stronger bonds. It's sandable once it hardens and it cures. It's basically the same thing as your body, just in a liquid format. So it works out perfect. See, now I got all my grooves filled in. You can see shiny. Now I'm gonna go across. I got heat blowing on me. It's gonna dry my glue before I get anything on there. So now I'm gonna just kind of. I could just pour it on there, and then you can make a huge mess. You don't want that. This is gonna stink really bad. Now I'm just going up to the wheel well here, because that's where it landed. It's pretty perfect. You can see it if you got it painted body. It's already eaten into the paint. Like I said, I want a good amount of glue on there. I want that styrene to get a good bond. also want to get some glue in here. Oops. Spilling a little bit of it. Put a little bit on the inside here. Oops, I'm spilling some. So that way, you know, it's starting to eat in there, it's starting to melt into it. Then you're gonna put them back together. And then I usually use rare earth magnets, and I'll put them in the bed. And I'll use the magnets to hold that big section down. Should probably put another one on there. Or in the middle. And that's going to hold that together nice and tight down in there. So now I got a spot. I didn't really get any up in here, which isn't a big deal. You can get to that. You kind of squeeze it, smear a little bit of your glue down. If it kind of oozes out, it'll help with filling in some of it. But once you take, and it's kind of sad, it'll move around pretty good. Start laying your tape. Once you've wiped some of the glue off. You use a lot of tape. Lots of tape. I'll take a nice section of the tape, press on the rear tailgate section so it's holding in there pretty good. So I'll fold it over. I want that to hold tight. So then I'm going to take another clamp and I'm going to put it up on the top. That's going to keep your bed seam that you see here, probably terrible lighting, but the bed seam you see here on this side will keep it lined up with each other. So then, I'm going to go right over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my tape. I know it sounds crazy. There's a lot of tape. A longer section on the bed. I feel like you get a good hold when you have just a little bit more, better leverage. Push and then fold that over. Tuck it. Now take another clamp. Clamps that, keeps that nice and straight. Now sometimes, like here, you're gonna need just another piece of tape. It just doesn't want to hold want it. Now, beer plus. I'll take let me see here. Whoops. Put that back on there. I'll go on the inside because there's not a lot of glue up here, but I don't want to try to. What I mean is the seam that was up here had glue on it, but just not, didn't have enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add some from the inside so that it kind of seeps through and into it. So I gotta get it way down into the corner, and that keeps flying off, and that's kind of annoying. I just take it, just use your brush to dab it, and it'll pretty much push it to wherever it needs to go, which is you're just trying to get it down into that corner. Something breathing at my basement window. Weird. Anyway, so I'm just filling in. Get some, about 3 or 4, and then I just kind of start pushing it back in there. And it'll feed itself right down into the corner. Sometimes you can see it coming through. Sometimes you can't. But you get that pack down in there. And I kind of look around to see everything looks good here except for the waviness. Now if I would have started to sand, by waviness I mean that little spot. Now if I would have went and sanded, I could have sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded and eventually made that complete. But I had nice here and it was perfect here. For the most part, all down the inside here and the inside here was all good, other than that one spot. So I wasn't too worried about it. I gotta put a piece of tape there, almost forgot. Tape and so then you just kind of, there'll be a few spots you missed. You can kind of fill them in as needed. That glue will pretty much get everywhere that you want it to. Now you can use like CA glue with your activator. But I found when doing the body work, the Mac and ABS just works so much better. It seems so much stronger. I feel like you get a better end result for your strength and material wise. Now when it comes to the interior stuff, I really like to use the CA glue because I need a quick bond. I need to be able to move quick, and I want to get the interior done, and I don't want to glue a little bit, and I don't want to wait a while. So I do like to use the CA glue with the activator for the interior stuff. Or if I'm doing like scale detail under the hood, I'll mostly use the thin CA, or I'll just use a dab of this stuff, and yeah, and then it comes out perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw another clamp on this side, and that's gonna hold that together. So then now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna dab some glue into the white area that you did, which is the styrene. So that'll kind of fill that in. I'm not gonna do it too much. I do want to get some in there, and if I kind of dab it near it, right in the seam there, it'll fill it in there, just like that. But I don't want to get too much, because see, now I'm getting some on the sides. I mean, I can just sand it, and it's gonna get dirty, and nobody would probably ever notice anyway, but I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go the rest of the way. And there's just a tiny seam. I just want to get some glue in there. I could have used the thin CA, like I said, but I want to get this, just, I don't know, something about this doing the body work. It just comes out really well. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's what I've been using, and it's just been working incredible. I haven't had anything come apart, and I am not too easy on my stuff. So I am done gluing. Whew. And then basically, you're just gonna let it sit, and I like to let it sit for at least 12 hours. I want it to get a good solid cure. So what I'll do is I'll take these off, set it upside down, and then I'm just gonna kind of leave it. So yeah, once I'm done, you peel it off, and you should have a pretty good seamless area in there. And if you want to, you can add a little tiny rust detail in there, or you can just kind of run it as is. So yeah, you went from that, cut it, got myself a nice short bed. I just did one the other day for a buddy. Took his truck, bobbed it, rusted it. So that's a cool little added touch. His was kind of beat up as it was, so that was a little rough. Trying to cut a scratched up body and put it back together and make it look, so now like you can see a seam, but it's rusted, which is cool. So I can go ahead and take the tape off of this. I'm not actually cutting this. yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Now when using the saw, it might take you a little longer to get through the material, but you just take your time and you get through pretty quick. And you just, styrene can be a really easy thing to work with, and it can be a lot of fun. And you just kind of do what works best for you, and just get creative, start building. There's so many different ways to use it and build with it, and it's just endless. And it really, it's incredible because you can just do so much stuff with it. I went from one day not knowing a damn thing. I built a med kit for Motorama, which is coming up in February. So if you're going, I'll see you there. Yeah, they require a med kit, and I didn't have one, and I'm like, man, I don't want to order one, so I just made one. And I'm like, wow, cool, this is kind of easy, and I had never really messed with it before. And the next thing you know, I jumped in and did an interior, built an interior, and then I built 2 more interiors, and then I built drop beds and started cutting tops off and beds, and then it just became endless. So it was a lot of fun throughout the way, and I just keep just doing random stuff. And I bought that bandsaw, and I'm like, this is gonna make it so much easier. Normally I would kind of dread doing them, and I'm like, oh man, I just did 2 of them back to back. I was like, this is no problem. This is cake work. Putting it back together is simple, so I'm gonna make a guide on that thing to where I can take and mount the bed on it, and it'll have little bearings, or probably like little wheels. I'll probably use some skateboard wheels since I have some, and just make a roller, and it'll just guide it down on wheels, and I can just slide it down, and I'll cut it perfect every single time. Make 2 marks on it on how deep I want it or how much of a cut, and just super easy. Then the hand saw, which I used to do, so I'm really looking forward to using that bandsaw with other things. But I'm having a lot of fun with the beds, and I've had this body for like 3 years now, and I've been running the truck pretty brutal, and it's like, you know what, it's time to bob the bed. It's time to make it a little bit more of a performer, even though it is already. But yeah, there's some other stuff that I've done too. Move this out of the way. I did another Toyota body. Another Yoda. Just another Yoda. It's a little different. Most of the time when people go and cut the beds, and they bob and they pinch, they're usually pinching the front, which is narrowing it, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but I decided to just dove and pinch the rear. Not a whole lot. As you can see, it's not perfect. It's been hit pretty hard. I cut the floor completely out. It had a big hole in it to begin with. I cut it in, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, I had it in 4 pieces, no, 5 pieces, and cut and bent and heated up and made the new floor, put my own runners in it. I cut the doors, made an interior. I didn't make the dash, but I did the floor pan, put the seat cover on. It's a 3D printed seat underneath of it. My shifters and stuff, some of that stuff I made. But so that's, I mean, and the interior comes completely out. I make them all now so that they just kind of slide into place. Him holding onto the steering wheel, but has some wire hanging out of the end of the steering wheel, and then it kind of slides into the steering column, kind of locks it in place. His hand never falls off the steering wheel. Got a seat belt that was made from some sort of strap, and I took a piece of solder wire. I don't know if you can see it right there. I kind of made it look like some sort of loop buckle. Made my gas pedal, brake. It is manual. So, and this comes right off. So these are just magnets. So a lot of fun. So goes right back into place, pops back in. So yeah, but that's how you bob a bed. Yeah, I'll post some pictures up of this, and you can check them out on Joe's Styrene Shack on Facebook. That's where I put a lot of all my builds, and all the materials and stuff like that will soon be up on there. So you'll be able to actually get glue from me, styrene, and stuff like that. So, and then you can check out my builds and the stuff that I do for some of the other people. I don't take on too many projects, but I'll do stuff for you know, some people if they ask me, you know, within reason, and you know, sometimes I'll help them out and I'll just do it for them, you know, as long as they just send it to me. You know, it doesn't take me very long. And then sometimes people they send me random stuff. You know, they'll send me the body, and they'll send me like some scale items and stuff like that. So, but yeah, if you're looking for any body work that can be done, you know, hit me up on Joe's Styrene Shack, or you know, comment on here and send me a message, and you know, I can build you an interior, cut your bed up. I can do a whole body. I mean, like I said, possibilities are endless, but that's just for now. That's how you bob the bed. I could probably let it sit for another 20 minutes and probably pull the tape off, but I'm gonna leave it for now and let it kind of sit and cure, and I'll run this truck this weekend. But yeah, so until the next video, maybe I think I'm gonna do an interior on, oh yeah, there'll be a build soon to come that there'll be something you don't want to miss. So that'll come later. But until then, I'm done here. I'm done building for the night. I'm done smelling this glue. It's terrible. I got a fan over here, like I said, that you might be able to hear the heater on, but like I said, if I open up that window, man, it's just freezing. So anyway, keep it scale, keep building, be creative, and until the next one, have a good one.